Hey Summoners, how's it going? My name is Nathan and I'll be your host for this video. In it, we'll discuss the upcoming changes that you can expect to see in the next patch. Whether it's champion balance, system changes, or anything else related to the game, I'll give you guys a sneak peek into patch 12.7's content. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content like this, and let's get started. Beginning the changes, we'll start with the upcoming system nerfs. Winter's Approach and Fimbulwinter are up for some nerfs, which comes as a bit of a surprise. While they're powerful items for tanks, it's also the only item that lets tanks keep up with bruisers in the top lane. Hopefully Riot doesn't nerf it to the ground like they did with Sunfire. Moonstone Renewer and Gale Force are also getting nerfed, but these items are currently pretty strong, so the nerfs make more sense there. Time Warp Tonic is the only rune up for a nerf, which will definitely impact the laning of champions that start with the Corrupting Potion. Moving on to our buffs, Umbral Glaive and Abyssal Mask are up for the works to get buffed in patch 12.7. Umbral Glaive could be an extremely powerful item, so hopefully Riot does make it rushable on every assassin. Abyssal Mask is probably the best item change so far, since it's an item that hasn't seen a lot of love, like me during COVID. Most people don't build it ever since they changed the passive, so I wonder if Riot will ever bring back some form of damage amplification again. That's it for the system changes, so let's move on to the champion balance next. For champion balance changes, we'll begin talking about the buffs. Neeko, Wukong, and Gwen already have had some changes on the PvE. It's highly likely that these are the exact changes that we'll see in the live server next patch, so let me quickly run you guys through them. For Neeko, she's receiving a massive buff to her W. Damage is going up by 40 at later ranks, and the bonus movement speed will be at 10 at higher ranks. 40 more damage and 10 more movement speed, what a buff. On-hit Neeko builds are sure to make a return next patch, even if not permanently. It's definitely gonna be at least worth experimenting with. I also want to remind you guys to keep an eye on our channel. We'll provide any updates as soon as we learn about them and also provide you guys with a full list of changes very soon. After a long drought, Wukong is also going to be receiving a buff next patch. His Q's cooldown is going to be reduced by 1 second, his W cooldown reduced at later levels, and his E AP ratio increased by 20%. That last buff I'm not too sure about, if I'm going to be honest with you. I am personally pretty doubtful of AP Wukong, but maybe somebody somewhere can prove me wrong. Anyway, the buff to his Q is huge. It's going to make a big difference in the early game, as well as continue to have a lasting impact well into the mid and late game. Wukong will have a higher single target DPS as a result of that buff, and his W's max cooldown reduction will definitely be lower than before. With enough ability haste, he'll prove to be extremely slippery with the ability to cast it multiple times in almost any teamfight. Hopefully these buffs will be enough to give Wukong the strength to compete in the current meta. Excessive buffs can definitely lead to some chaos, and I'm gonna hope that simple changes like this prove to be enough. Finally, Gwen is receiving increased cooldown reduction to her E. As of now, it's set to be increased from 50 to 60%. Similarly to Wukong, this is a big buff in the early game that continues to provide some extra DPS into the later stages of the game as well. Another solid buff that she's receiving is a cooldown reduction for her ultimate at early ranks. By granting her more power in the early game, Gwen should be able to more consistently build up leads after outplaying her lane opponents. The current 2-minute cooldown is large, and players often have to concede minion waves when they're where their opponent has access to their ultimate first. A reduced cooldown means that she can continue to play aggressively without relent. Her 46% win rate in high elo definitely merits some attention, and we'll have to see how effective these buffs are. She's particularly sensitive to any balance adjustments that she receives, so be on the lookout next patch. Aside from these 3 champions, we've got a couple more that are listed for buffs. Yasuo, Yone, Gangplank, Kalista, Lilia, and Karthus are also in line for some changes, but we'll be talking about them in tomorrow's video when the full changes are posted. Moving on to our nerfs, Zeri is getting even more changes in patch 12.7. Riot is still hard at work to help her fit in appropriately. Here's what we expect and what's actually live on the PvE. Her Q's base damage is being reduced, but the AD ratio is increased. Also, her Q's slow is being increased at the early levels. The same damage changes apply to her W, but that's also included in the buff to the AP ratio. In addition, Zeri's E and ultimate will also begin interacting positively with crits. The critical strike will reduce her E's cooldown by another second. When her Q crits, she'll provide her ultimate with an extra stack. These changes should encourage more of a traditional marksman build for Zeri. Instead of getting to use a tanky hybrid build and still match or outperform her competition, she needs to take some risks moving forward. Reduced base damage will force players to opt into squishier builds to access more comparable DPS to her current form. Her current build provides way too much, and I agree with the idea behind these adjustments. The other champions that are planned to get nerfed are Ryze, Lee Sin, and Jace. These have to be some pro-focused nerfs because all 3 of these champions are hard to pilot and suffer pretty low win rates. I know Riot needs to patch around competitive, but I really hope to get some more context once tomorrow's full changes are released. And that covers our 12.7 patch preview. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, feel free to share your thoughts with us in the comments down below, and also check out the description for a link to join our Discord. Anyway, with all that being said, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.